Okay, so our last lesson with inequalities is going to be writing inequalities. Now, this will be just a little bit different. We have in our previous lessons written inequalities at the end of the notes, but this is going to be just a little bit different because this is going to be writing inequalities whenever they don't tell you what the sign is. And so there is going to be a couple of ways that we can figure out what the inequality sign is going to be. Greater than, less than, greater than, equal to, less than or equal to. And we'll talk about that here in a second. But this is the difference between that type of writing inequalities that we've already done, where it tells us greater than, less than, whatever, and then these where it's basically a story problem, and we have to take that story problem and figure out which inequality symbol am I going to use. So first thing is writing inequalities. As you could probably guess by now, because all of the stuff with inequalities is very similar to equations, very similar to writing equations. So remember when we talked about writing two-step equations, the order that we would go in. So first thing is always define the variable. Tell me what the variable is, what it's going to represent. What am I trying to find? And then determine what's the coefficient going to be. Remember, coefficient, that's the number that goes with the variable. So 2x, 3y, 7z, that's the coefficient, that number. Then we're going to add or subtract any numbers, just numbers by themselves, which are constants. And then the last number, the last constant or number, we're going to write that on the other side of the inequality. So we're going to get all the numbers and variables first. And then at the very end, we're going to determine how the problem is worded, which inequality symbol are we going to use? Greater than or equal to, less than or equal to. And so that's going to help us kind of get this inequality down as we're writing these inequalities. So one way that we can do this is use a chart that I've kind of made that will tell that has some keywords and phrases. And if you see this keyword or this phrase in the problem, it kind of tells you which inequality symbol it's going to go with. So this is that chart. Go ahead and pause the video so you can get this down on your notes paper. So as you've gotten this down, one thing but you're just going to have to kind of figure out, okay, this is what this is talking about. It might not say at most, but it might say the most he can have, the most they can have is that. So that would tell you it's less than or equal to. So this is not going to be always exactly like what you see up here, but for the most part, it is going to help you out quite a bit. So let's go ahead and dive into some of these examples. So Dylan has $18 to ride go-karts and play games at the state fair. Suppose the go-karts cost $5.50. Write and solve an inequality to find the most he can spend on games. Okay, so first thing we want to do is say, okay, what's X going to be? X is going to be the most he can spend on games. So money spent on games. Now, is there going to be a coefficient, a number in front of this X? Well, there is not, okay? Because think about it. He's going to spend X amount on games plus the $5.50 that he's already spent on go-karts. So X on games plus $5.50 on go-karts. On the other side of the inequality sign, I've got 18. So first thing is you can look and see, okay, find the most he can spend. Well, looking at that chart that we just wrote down, there is one that says at most, and that would be the most he can spend. And that is less than or equal to. So last thing, and this is another way that you can figure out what inequality symbol am I going to put in this inequality, and this might be easier for you. Okay, think about if he has $18 to spend. Can he spend exactly $18? Yes. Can he spend more than 18? No, he can spend less than 18 though. So it's going to be less than or equal to. Because he can spend less than 18 and still be fine. He can spend exactly 18, but he can't spend more than. So that would be our inequality. Whenever you are writing these as an answer, I need to see this. This is part of your answer. Then you can solve it. So make sure I see that inequality, and it's got to look like that. And then we'll go ahead and subtract 550 from both sides. And that's going to get us x is less than or equal to $12.50. So make sure I see the solution set and I see the inequality that you have written. Okay, as we move on to our next example, there is one thing that I want you to get down on your notes paper, and that is this right here, interpret the solution. So if you see interpret the solution, that means explain what your answer means in the context of this problem. So whenever you write your inequality and get your answer, it's going to say sometimes interpret the solution. That means explain what your answer, what your solution set means for this question in context of this problem. Okay, so the first thing we'll do is go ahead and write our inequality. So a plate weighs 1/4 of a pound. A shelf can hold at most 20 pounds. Write and solve an inequality to find how many plates the shelf can hold. So first thing, our our variable is going to be P, and that represents plates. Okay, what number goes with each plate? Well, each plate weighs 1/4 of a pound, so it's going to be 1/4 P. There's nothing else that we have on that side, so we're going to go to the other side of the inequality and put 20 because that's at most 20 pounds. So if a shelf can hold at most 20 pounds, first of all, at most is on your inequality symbols, that's less than or equal to. And think about a shelf, if it can hold at most 20 pounds, it can't hold more than 20 pounds. It can hold exactly 20 pounds, but no more than. And so it would definitely have to be less than or equal to. So that's our inequality. And then to solve it, we would, remember, flip the fraction, multiply both sides by 4/1. That's going to get rid of that 1/4. So 20 times 4/1. And so we're left with P is less than or equal to 80. So that shelf can hold no more than 80 plates. And that is exactly what the interpreting the solution is. What does this answer mean for this question? Well, P is less than or equal to 80 means the shelf can hold no more than 80 plates. The shelf can hold no more than 80 plates. Okay, so this is what interpret the solution means. You write something like that, just a short sentence, tells me what does your answer mean for the context of this problem. Okay, so our next example here. Halfway through the bowling season, Stewart has 34 strikes. He averages 2 strikes per game. Write and solve an inequality to find how many more games it will be 61 strikes. Okay, so first thing, what are we trying to find? It says find what? Find how many more games. So that is G, represents games. Okay, what number goes with each game? He averages 2 strikes per game, so 2G. Okay, and then we've got 34, 61 is what he wants to get to. So what are we going to do with 34 if he already has 34 strikes? Well, 2 every game plus the 34 he has, and then we're going to get to 61. Okay, so question. What is the inequality symbol? Well, notice it says he wants to have at least 61 strikes. So that kind of tells you what the inequality symbol is going to be. Another way you can think of it is, can he get exactly 61 strikes? Yes, because then he would have the league record. And then could he get more than? Well, yes, but he can't get less than. So 2G plus 34 is greater than or equal to 61. He gets exactly 61. He's got the league record. He gets more than 61. He's definitely got the league record. So that's our two-step inequality. First thing we're going to do is subtract 34 And that's going to get us 2G is greater than or equal to 27. And then we would divide both sides by 2. So that's going to get us G is greater than or equal to 27 divided by 2 is actually going to be 13 and a half. Now, 13 and a half games, and I'm going to say you can leave your answer like this. Think about why you can. Well, so think about in just a sport or a game. If someone breaks a record halfway through the game, do they keep playing the game? Yeah, they do. They might stop and say, congratulations, you got the record, but they don't have to stop the game after the record is broken. And so 13 and a half games, that just means it's going to take him 13 games, and then he should, about halfway through the 14th game, he'll have the record. Then he can keep playing because G is greater than or equal to 13 and a half. So it could be 14, 15, 16, it can be anything above that. So interpret the solution. It will take him about, because we don't know exactly how long, it'll take him about 13 and a half games to break the record. And in a question like this, 13 and a half is an answer that you can keep. Okay, so I'm going to let you all do the next one on your own, see how you do on that. Pause the video, do this next one on your own. Okay, so question is first, what am I trying to find? Well, determine how many more lawns he will have to mow. So usually just one little thing. We'll say L stands for lawns. Usually you write a cursive L for that because if you just write a regular L, it could be mistaken for a 1. So that's what my variable is going to be. You could use X for lawns as well. Okay, what number is going to go with each lawn or L? Well, it's $10 per lawn, so 10L. And he's already earned $40 for mowing lawns, so plus 40. And then he wants to get at least $95. Well, if he wants at least $95 for a new lawnmower, could he get exactly 95 and have enough money? Yes. Could he get more than 95? Yes. So it'd be 10L plus 40 is greater than or equal to 95. So we would subtract 40 from both sides to start solving. And then it's going to get us 10L is greater than or equal to 55. Divide by 10. And we get L is greater than or equal to 5.5. So keep L is greater than or equal to 5.5. But whenever we go to interpret our solution, we're going to say he will need to mow at least how many yards? He's going to have the most 6 yards, okay? Because if he just mows 5 and then gets halfway through the 6th one and stops and says, "Up, I got enough money for a lawnmower," he's not going to be mowing lawns for much longer. Okay, so he can't just stop halfway through that next line. Now, is 6 still fit the solution set? Well, 6 is greater than 5.5. So yeah, 6 still fits the solution set. So in this case, keep L is greater than or equal to 5.5, but then change it to 6 because he needs to mow at least 6 yards to have enough money for that lawnmower. Okay, and he'll have a little bit extra after he buys the mower for $95. All right, so that was that one. And then if you're feeling like you got this and you're feeling comfortable with writing these inequalities, pause the video and write this one on your own, see what you get. Okay, so the first thing that we want to do is figure out what am I trying to find. It says find how many miles. So I'll say M for miles. Okay, so what number is going to go with each mile or per mile? Well, that would be that 20 cents, so 0.20 M. Okay, and then do they charge an extra amount? Well, yes, $45. So $45, and it kind of tells you how it's going to be written. Plus 20 cents per mile is what it says there. So 0.2 m plus 45, you can switch the 45 and the 0.20 m if you want to. And then he does not want to spend more than $100. So you know it's going to be less than 100. Okay, the question is it going to be equal to 100? Well, is 100 more than 100? It is not. So equal to 100 would work as well. No more than would be less than or equal to 100. So to solve this, that's our inequality. To solve it, we would first subtract 45 from both sides. And that's going to get us 0.20 m is less than or equal to 55. And then divide both sides by 0.20. Okay, so we're going to end up getting m is less than or equal to 275. So how would you interpret this solution? You would say that Mr. Lawrence, if he doesn't want to spend more than $100, he can drive 275 miles. We can say up to 275 miles without going over $100. So you can drive up to 275 miles without going over $100. Okay, so that is writing inequalities. And there will be a practice paper that you all will have to help you with this one. But very similar to writing two-step equations or writing equations. Define your variable, put the number, the coefficient in front of that variable, add or subtract anything else if you need to. And the biggest thing is just making sure you get your inequality symbol correct there. So hopefully you got this down, have some practice to get better at, and you should be fine with this.